Hello, my name is Jamie Burchell, and you are listening to and or watching our podcast called Wormhole Pinball
Wormhole
Presents.
Pinball presents. Wormhole Pinball presents.
Today, I'm very, very excited to be joined by two great individuals. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by a very special guest.
And today I'm very excited to be joined by
Two awesome guests all the way from Arizona. Hello and welcome to the Wormhole and our podcast we call Wormhole Pinball Presents, an interview series we started to highlight those in pinball and arcades. And today I'm excited to introduce you to someone I met at the Stern Pinball media event for D&D a couple of weeks ago. Doug Smith of the popular YouTube channel Cool Toy, 50,000 subscribers. Doug, thank you for joining the podcast. I'm so pumped to talk to you today.
Hey, my pleasure. I appreciate the invite. It was nice to, chat with you up there at Stern while we were, waiting for the D&D unveiling. So, I'm looking forward to chat about, arcades, pinball, and just general nerdiness.
Yeah, so my background's a little different today. I'm not at the wormhole. I'm actually at my house. We're snowed in
I
Houston.
I saw that. I've got family in Houston, and they're sending me pictures of, grandnephews and kids playing in the snow, and I'm just like, man, it snowed like one time when I lived there, and it was like a dusting would be, a generous,
Right.
description of it
No, we
versus
got
what
about
you guys have
six.
now.
Yeah, we got about
Yeah.
6, 7 inches, and this city just does not have the infrastructure, Doug, to deal with this.
No.
So they're freaking out, and everyone work remote all day today, right? There's no one else on the roads, and we got about it went to 36 degrees. So now it's all melting, and then we're gonna hit 25 tonight, and so that's all ice.
Yeah, and there's
And
a lot of
here,
people that get that false sense of security once it like melts a little bit. They're like, "Oh, this isn't so bad," and they hit it, coming home late from work or whatever, and it's nothing but a sheet of ice. And I don't care what kind of vehicle you have, you're SOL when you're
oh,
on
you're
ice.
screwed. Yeah, it's all ice
Yeah,
tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So I knew I could get to the wormhole, Doug, but I don't think I could get back.
yeah. Getting back is always the trouble. Not worth it.
I live about a mile and a half away from the
Mhm.
wormhole, and I
That's
was.
a cold walk. That's a
It
cold
is a
walk too.
cold. Yeah, I brought the Roadcaster with me. I brought all my gear to make it look good and sound good, but we're just doing it remote. So here we go. You lived in Texas
There's,
though for a while, right?
I did. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas.
Where part of Houston?
Literally like in the middle of Houston. I think the elementary school I went to was Green Valley, and it has like a Houston address, so it's not even one of the
Awesome.
suburbs.
I was a burb
Hmm.
guy when we moved here, and raised the kids in Pearland,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
now we're back in the Heights, my wife and I.
The burbs is where it's at. Like my parents stayed in Houston for a little while, and then they moved us to Baytown, and that's where my sister still kind of resides in that area, and that's where a lot of my growing up was later on, especially with like where I went to the mall and played the arcade games and all that kind of stuff was in the
Yeah,
Baytown
in
area.
Baytown, huh? All
Hmm.
right, well there you go, Baytown shout out here in the H town. Uh,
There's like three people. I mean, it's bigger than that, but there's probably
Yeah.
a
For people
small
that
amount of
listen,
listeners
there's
that
going to be like three
yeah,
people going, yeah,
yeah.
B-Town.
Hmm.
All right. So these podcasts obviously are very, very informal. I love interviewing folks for a living is what I do. So it just made sense to do this podcast here. So buckle up. Here we go. Let's start with D&D, right? You recently
Okay.
published your review of Dungeons and Dragons on your YouTube channel, over 10,000 views. Let's chat about D&D quickly. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I wasn't surprised with the theme reveal. I think that was, the ongoing rumor for several months, and lately the rumor mill has been pretty accurate with those Stern guesses. So I
Yeah, they
wasn't
have.
shocked to see it was D&D or anything like that, but I was pleasantly surprised with just the game design and the depth they went through with the code, and just hearing like Dwight and Brian talk about the development of it and the code and the processes and the decisions they went into it. You could really tell this is kind of a passion project, specifically with Dwight. Like I could tell like he is a board game nerd, specifically has some experience with D&D, so that's somebody you want assigned to that project. A lot of these themes, I think the designers maybe get a little bit of a yeah sure type of thing, but very seldom do I think they get like something that's really true, near and dear to their heart every so often. So I think that helps a lot, especially with something as um, complicated as D&D can be. Is for anybody that's ever played an actual game of Dungeons and Dragon, it can get super intricate and it can also be very high level and just blow people's minds. So I
You
think
could see him
having
geeking out, right?
oh,
That,
absolutely, that was the thing. Like
that's
I
what
could
I,
tell,
yeah,
like
yeah.
they were truly passionate about what they wanted to do, and they wanted to do it justice. They wanted to, do it for pinball
Yeah.
fans and Dungeons and Dragon fans because those are two completely different fan bases. So to appease them both simultaneously is a tall order in itself.
Wow. You hand all both, I don't know about the Dungeons and Dragons crowd, but I know the pinball crowd could be a little tough, right?
For sure.
Okay. So if they're even close to being as tough as the pinball crowd, tough sell there. But
Mhm.
I dug it. I really did.
Mhm.
No pun intended. I thought it was a great game. I loved the progress that they took from Venom and said, okay, let's put that on some steroids.
Yeah, because it, for whatever reason, like to me, like Venom was like the prototype, if you will, for that kind of like they tried something, but like for whatever to me, it just didn't feel fully developed and fully realized. D&D, I could see the broader picture, especially when it comes to like the game progress and the different character progressions and what those do for different gameplay aspects. I felt that was more realized on D&D than it was with the predecessor in Venom, and even so
Mhm.
going further back with Turtles.
Yeah, true. But you can see, Dwight in those, right? And you can see he was just there was a point during that meeting where his D&D knowledge went right over my head, and I was just like, oh boy. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, I think they asked, show of hands, how many of us had played D&D? And there's what, 30 of us or so in that room? And I
Yeah,
think
they
maybe
were like
four of us
three,
raised our hands.
four.
So like
Yeah.
that shows you like you're dealing, two different niches, even though it's broad spectrum, all encompassing, nerdy type of stuff.
Right.
But
And then I
they're
thought that
two
would have been
different
a good,
audiences.
yeah, that would have been a good like read the room, man. Like
Well,
re-
that just goes to show you, like, how intricate and, detailed some of that mythology is, how it can go. It's public knowledge that, hey, Dungeons and Dragons is a thing, but that's surface level, knowledge for pop culture. You go anywhere below that surface level, you start getting people going, huh? Is
yeah.
this guy
I
speaking a
went
different
into
language? What?
Yeah, I know this guy's dressing up, and I went into it saying to myself, all right, I'm going up to Chicago. I'm going to meet all these great people. I've never thrown this die in my life. I've never even thrown a die. So, okay, what go up there with an open mind. Don't go up there and go, this is ridiculous, And I love the fact that you don't have to love D&D to play that game. You can play the hell out of that game. And then you can learn to appreciate the rules and learn to appreciate D&D in a way that I don't think other pinball machines have done so far. I dug it.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of making it at at its heart, just a fun, enjoyable pinball experience because you got to appease your core crowd first, and then later on, if you bring some new people to pinball via D&D with it's whether it be the art or just the fact that hey, it's a Dungeons and Dragon pinball machine that has you know things that I associate to Dungeons and Dragon. Maybe you bring those people into it, and you
Yeah.
get new people to play pinball. That's great, but I think like you said, it's just a fun game to play.
Shots are
And
great.
that's the shots are great. The layout, like if you just blank canvas, if we were playing a whitewood and it didn't have a theme on it, I think a lot of people will just still have the same impression that, yeah, that was a fun game to play.
Yeah. I mean, we played it, me and you played it, and we were supposed to be going to Interium. And you were, and then you were blew it up, and I was like, I'm not letting him just come in here and just whip my ass.
Yeah, wreck it. No,
And
you gotta
but
represent.
I got to try. And then Colin Alsheimer was all over me, like, we got to go, dude. Come on. And I was
Yeah, I
finally
heard you
got
guys.
that.
It's like we got to be there in 15 minutes. I'm like, that's not a 15-minute drive.
There's no way. Okay, good. Sorry. Sometimes Zoom
No, you're good.
switches microphones on you.
Yeah, I
They
I know
freak
that all
out.
too well. I use it professionally for my day job, and it's inconsistent to say the least.
It freaks me out. I might go to Teams, but Teams is so much more expensive that it pisses me off. So I just won't do it.
And it's the same problem. I've done Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, like you name it.
Right.
Every company that I associate, there's a different brand that somebody uses, and we all kind of just go with the flow. So I've used them all on a daily basis, and they're
We were
all the same.
joking that before we started recording that I recorded the cloud and then I send
Yes.
that recording to my intern editor and then does all the editing. He's fantastic. Shout out Ryan Gregg. And then it just makes it easy. So I don't have to download it, then send it up on the Google file. I just send him the
Hmm.
link. But there's going to be a podcast that's not going to work, and I'm going to have to either redo it or something. And this, you were joking that you knew it would happen to you,
Oh, absolutely.
but
Yeah.
it happened to me. Um, I had Mark Tremonti next to me, who's the guitarist for Creed and the
Yep.
guitarist for Alter Bridge. I had Alter Bridge in the wormhole, right? I am freaking out because I love Miles Kennedy. He's one of my favorite
Hmm.
lead singer, and he's just sitting there, and I'm just geeking out, and I finally get Mark to get on the microphone with me, and we're talking, and the audio did not take any of the audio. The computer totally screwed up.
Oh,
I
that's
had
the
him on
worst.
for
Like,
30 minutes, dude. We were geeking on pinball. It was a fantastic podcast before I even started podcasting. It was awesome. We just bullshitted pinball. And he's such a normal, regular guy, and I've gotten to go see him again and developing a thing with Alter Bridge and Creed, but that pissed me off. It's
oh,
gonna happen.
absolutely.
It's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
because not only did it like it drained it, it took everything. Like you didn't even have like, garbled audio to, maybe salvage. It was just
No, I have video that I could put over a
Benny Hill music.
yeah, or maybe AI one day will be able to take my voice on his and figure out my what the hell I was trying to
Oh,
say.
I'm sure we're already at that world with the AI. It scares
That
me
would
how
be
quickly
really
it's
cool.
progressing.
All right, last thing on the Stern Media Day. Someone at the media event asked Dwight, I don't know if you remember this question. They asked him if they would have DLC, and he
Yes.
quickly shot that down. Like, right? He said, no
Yeah, he said
DLC in pinball.
I think his like statement was there will never be DLC in pinball. And then he,
Okay.
went on to explain how expensive it is for them to create a wizard mode or, develop things like that. And um, that's great. As far as what I envisioned, I was like, I don't want DLC to come into my world because especially in pinball, like we spend all this money on these, fancy light boxes that are just
Interesting perspective from your. I didn't think that you'd have that perspective because I'm on the opposite
it's
side of
not.
you.
No. Like I have DLC in video games, console games, PC
Everything in
games,
our life is DLC,
everything.
right?
And I maybe as I get older, I get more of a curmudgeon about it. But like I remember specifically there was a game on Xbox that I played where you
Which
had to
one?
pay it was Dead
Star Wars
Rising 2.
Battlefront? Oh, Dead
No, but
Rising
that
2.
yeah, Battlefront's a terrible example of loot
Example two,
boxes.
right? That pissed
Yeah.
us all off.
But Dead Rising 2, like you had to buy DLC to get the true ending of the game. And I was like,
Yeah,
no. I'm like, how do we get to the point where I'm paying extra on top of the 59.99 price point to get the real ending of the game that should have been included? Like it's one thing to here's
right.
a bonus mission, but it's another thing completely to say, here's the actual end of the game.
So I could talk to you about this forever,
Oh, absolutely.
real quick. I was talking to a marketing person at Stern at Interium for a very, very long time. And I said, I've been playing video games forever. Forever. I've seen this first DLC shit when it hit Call of Duty and everything else, right? I pay it. I say, thank you, sir. Can I have another? All right. Okay. Because I want the maps and I want to play online and I want to do all these things. If you charged me $1.99 a month for Stern Insider Connect, but I get more shit than the free person gets. Like I really get stuff. I get downloadable content before they get it. I get to beta test the code or I get to do all these stupid things like we used to do in Call of Duty.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, and I'm honestly with you. I'd be the guy that raises his hand and does, buy it and say, thank you. May I have another? But like the
Yeah.
precedent, like it's a very
Yeah, but
fine line you go
oh, I
between
know.
like
But I
consumer
want them to be
outrage and
successful.
consumer. I do too. And I think the problem, their biggest hurdle is, growing pinball as a whole, not necessarily adding to the revenue stream via DLC and, monthly subscriptions. I think that's a good way to, circumvent certain dips and, trends and, market, but I don't think that's what grows them as a business. I think you need
Yeah,
more people playing pinball, specifically the younger generation, than you do us older generation, giving them 5.99 a month or whatever,
true. But I'm telling you, those younger generation, they just expect it.
Oh, they do. I mean,
Look at
because
Minecraft. Look at all these.
yeah, they've known
They know
nothing but,
nothing but
loot
DLC.
boxes and
Loot
DLC. And like
boxes
we've all
and
read those
Fortnite and
articles, yeah, articles about, 5-year-old kids spending $1,000 on Fortnite on, the credit card bill shows up and mom and dad have a,
yeah.
a conniption.
But a good example to me is the P3 platform sometimes of what they're trying to do, right? Dungeon Door Defender. I don't know anyone who's ever played this, but if you have a P3 module, you've got to download Dungeon Door Defender for $199. Have you ever played it?
I have my buddy Manu Smith, Mystery Pinball Theater 3000 on Twitch. We were at Dallas or Texas Pinball Festival last year, and he was, giving me the sales pitch on P3 because he's like, "You like virtual pinball? You like physical pinball?" He's like, "Here's the, best of
Right.
both worlds." And then I was like, "Okay, but, I get that," but I'm like, until Princess Bride, there wasn't really a theme that grabbed my attention because I'm
Fair
theme
enough.
first. And then he's like, "But wait, there's more." And then that's when he showed me, the DLC, if you will, with the dungeon thing. And I played it and he was explaining what we would do. I'm like, this is like a fun, enjoyable game in itself that had nothing to
Yeah.
do with the main theme that was on, P3.
Donovan
And I was
Wade
like,
and I on our Twitch channel played the shit out of it.
yeah, it's
And
fun. And
it
it's
was
fun with friends too, because
fun,
like I got to really see
fun and
what
see
was
how
going
far
on
you
with
can
different.
get.
Uh-huh.
And it was a very, very fun, outstanding adaptation of a video game and pinball,
Yep. And
right?
like the difficulty ramps up. So it gets you like, your excitement, your
It
heartbeat. You're
got
like, oh
too
crap.
hard on me. It started pissing me off. I told we actually interviewed the creator Michael on Twitch, and I told him it was too hard because that's my only problem with it. It's like level 8, you are just getting your hiney kicked. I can't even see getting to level 9. I can't.
It ramped up pretty quick, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I think I made it
easy
like
up,
5 or 6
man.
on my first play, and I thought that was big. And I was like, "How many levels are there?" And I heard it. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, there's like no way you can get to those. There's no
yeah."
way. But buying your attributes and uh, the whole thing that they do. Anyone has P3, spend $199. Get that thing. Get that thing. All right, let's talk about your YouTube channel. Cool toy. You review everything from video games to VR to actual toys, right? When did you
Yeah.
start this channel, and how did you decide to produce this type of content?
So I had a YouTube since like 2006 because in when I was in college, I was doing a media production degree, and hard drives back in 2006 were, the size of a textbook, and you had to plug them into the wall, and they hold like 100 megabytes or 100 gigabytes. That was like huge. So I was having these media classes where I had these massive files that I was having to take home and transfer and edit and bring back to class. So I started a YouTube then just for a free like hard drive on the cloud before the cloud was a thing.
Mm.
But I really didn't upload any content until May 2018. And I really just started that out as a frustration of what I saw and what I viewed on YouTube. It was always like people are either too negative or didn't talk about certain things in a way that I preferred or glassed over certain things that I cared about and vice versa. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. I mean, I went to school for media production and then I got a boring day job that had nothing to do with that. And I had this, creative itch. I'm like, I got to do
Yeah,
something. I have all these skills built up that I literally don't use at all. I'm like kind of bored. Why not? So I started a YouTube channel and just started talking about things I like. I do the thing on YouTube that you're like absolutely not supposed to do, which is talk about a breadth of subjects. Like you're supposed to find like one niche and just beat
sure.
that dead horse. And I don't do that. And I've always jokingly said I'm a middle finger success story to YouTube and its algorithm because I don't play nice with it and I mess with it all the time, and I'm sure I would be more quote unquote successful on YouTube if I played by its rules. But I feel better about myself when I put my head on the pillow doing things my way versus trying to appease some robot overlord.
Yeah. I mean, you could have just decided I'm just going to do lightsabers and Star Wars, right? Toys.
Absolutely.
And been like Mike Zero or some of those guys that do stuff like that. But I like that you've just said, These are my passions. I'm going to review the stuff that I love to review and build your audience that way." It's really great.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like work, which
Yeah.
makes it nice because I put a ton of time and energy into it. So if I'm going to do something which essentially turns into a second job, I don't want it to feel like work after my normal day job because then you're just burning yourself out. And then again, you go back to that, you're trying to appease algorithms and all this stuff that if you're not really passionate about what you're talking about, then you're just killing yourself.
Yeah, scratching that itch is real, man. It's a real thing. I went to school, and I've told this story before, but I went to school to be a broadcaster, to be on the radio. It's what I wanted to do. And then I canceled that program and I went, shit, I went into business and I had a different life. But this itch, this damn,
It doesn't go away. Yeah.
it really doesn't. And and I think YouTube and Spotify and all these podcast things have given us an opportunity to scratch that creative itch in such a way that I love that if people like it, great, tune in. If you don't like it, all right, no worries.
And that's the best thing about it because it's so accessible to the masses, whether you want to be a creator or not. There is something out there for you. Like there's a
Yeah.
podcast, a storyteller, something like there's some sort of content that's going to be right up your alley, whether
Yeah,
you
that'll
want to be
scratch
the
your itch.
person creating,
Absolutely.
yeah, whether it be creating it or consuming it. And I love it because this didn't exist. A lot of these mediums that we do now didn't exist 20 years ago. So I
No
love that
way.
it's
Yeah.
created so many different avenues and opportunities. Like even TikTok going away and then coming back, like that's a whole nother world of content creation that people, my wife obsesses over it, and like she was almost physically ill that TikTok was going away for all of,
I was
7
more
hours.
pissed at CapCut getting cut because they
Hmm.
own CapCut. Do you use CapCut to edit?
I don't. I use Final Cut.
Okay, it's better Final Cut, but I don't want to pay any money, so I use CapCut. It's $80 a year, and it's pretty good. It's pretty
Mhm.
good. Oh, it's probably cheaper than Final Cut, isn't it? Final Cut's probably cheaper.
I mean, it's weird because Apple's kind of like Adobe, where they started,
Yeah,
you don't buy the software, you rent it
yeah,
type of stuff. But like,
yeah.
I've
Same
had
thing.
Final Cut when I bought my computer, and I paid like a one-time fee to, have it on
Oh,
there.
you're
So I
an
don't,
OG.
yeah. So like, I don't
Yeah,
have to
you're
worry
an
about it.
OG.
But
Nicely
like,
done. Did you
yeah.
grow up going to arcades and playing video games at home?
Yes, not trying to throw my parents under the bus, but my parents were pretty bad when it came to childcare. Obviously, times have changed too, but they would literally just give me like a $5 or $10 bill and drop me off at the arcade and say, "Hey, don't leave this place until we come pick you up at
That's good
5 o'clock."
parenting,
Or,
is what that is,
yeah,
Doug.
like I mean, it worked out great, but like I got a 2-year-old now, and I look back and think of dropping him off at strange area ran by adults, unsupervised by
Yeah,
anybody, and leave them
but
there for
I
eight hours.
I grew up where I got on my bike and I drove to the arcade.
Yeah, same
I
thing. And
drove
like
to the mall.
I think about how far I went on my bike. Hey mom, I'm gonna ride on the bike. She's like, be back when the street lamps come on. And
That's
like,
right. But you'll never let your 2-year-old just ride your
oh,
bike and take
absolutely
off.
not. But
Absolutely
like
not.
to
Because
think of
my
like I
wife
was
will
like,
never let my kids do it
yeah, I
ever.
was like in a different town on my bicycle. I
Oh, I
mean,
know.
just the adventures I had back then, and
It's just
different
bananas.
times, different world, it feels like. But yeah, that was, I mean, going and arcades were so much more plentiful too. There was an arcade machine at every laundromat, every grocery store lobby,
Yeah.
they were everywhere. So, I mean, they were my babysitters for most of my youth.
What any machines did you play pinball or mostly arcade?
I mostly arcade, but I did play a lot of pinball. I always focused on it was always like the movie IP themes. I
Okay.
specifically when we moved to Missouri, there was this taco place that had an arcade in it, and they specifically had Addams Family, Terminator 2, and Jurassic Park. And me, my brother, and just every kid I grew up with, we put all our money in all the arcades and those three pinball machines,
Awesome.
and that was my youth, and that's that 90s arcade scene and slash pinball scene is kind of, the last hurrah, if you will, before things started to go down and out. So I
So
got to see the last,
yeah, me
rise
too.
before the fall.
Me too. The only difference, I'm older than you, is I was able to drive to the arcades in high school, right?
Hmm.
And that's where I found solace. And but I migrated to video games big time too. Did you really migrate in the 90s to video
Oh,
games?
absolutely. Consoles. I'm a
Consoles?
huge Sega nerd.
I'm a Sega
And
nerd, so we're gonna
yeah,
talk. So all right, so
yeah.
let's play a yes no game, okay?
Okay.
I played this game with Co because Co and I are very, very similar in arcade, just as much as me and you are. So I
Hmm.
played this exact game with Co from Quarter Drop Arcade. So these are in some sequential order. You just play yes, no. Have you played it or owned it?
Okay.
Okay. Let's go with the Atari 2600. You're a little younger, but
It was my first console.
okay.
Dad bought it and then handed it down to me when we got a Nintendo Entertainment System. But yeah, used to have blisters in the inside from our Atari 2600 joysticks,
Yeah, you took the thing,
Galaga, Pac-Man. Just yeah, you wore it.
wore it.
Tanks,
Yeah.
Pitfall.
Tanks,
Yeah,
combat.
yep. Combat. I mean, I
That was,
had like
uh,
40 cartridges when it was all said and done. And I remember uh, taking it into a pawn shop to sell it to try to get money for Nintendo games. And Dad was like, "All right, I'm gonna teach you how to haggle." And I think I was like, 9 years old at the time. So the thought of haggling with the pawn shop owner as a 9-year-old was kind of daunting. And I'm
yeah.
sure that guy was laughing hysterical at me. I was like, "What do I do?" He's like, "Well, ask him how much he'll give for you, and then whatever he tells you, say more, and then you start the dance until you get him out. You're happy with." I'm like, "I want $30," and he's like, "No, don't start there." And I was like, "Okay." It was a terrible experience.
Sounds traumatic. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to do a
absolutely.
yes no game with you.
Yeah, no, you're good.
All right, Atari 5200
No,
in television.
no.
See, you're too young. ColecoVision.
Yeah. No, Buddy had one, but I never had one.
All right, let's go. Commodore 64.
Same friend of mine had one. I played his, but I never owned one.
So my answer, by the way, is yes to all these. That's how
Okay.
ridiculous I was. Okay.
Well, I mean, you also had
Except
a couple of years on
I
me,
didn't
so
have in
yeah.
television. All right,
Hmm.
Sega. Did you get the original
Oh,
Sega Master System or the Sega Genesis?
Genesis.
Okay. So let's skip ahead.
Hmm.
Sega Genesis. Did you have the Nintendo NES?
Yes.
Okay. Sega CD.
Yep.
Ooh, you're a Sega guy, so this is gonna work.
Oh, like if you name a Sega console moving forward from Genesis, the answer is yes.
So you had
Whether it be
Sega CD,
add-on,
you
yeah.
had the 32
I had the
add-on,
32. I had, everything you can name from Sega
Sega
Genesis moving
Saturn,
forward. Sega Saturn, yep. We used
Sega.
to drive 3 towns over to try to rent Sega Saturn games because they were
Yeah,
never
because
in my
no
area.
one had them. All right,
Yeah.
let's see. Because I had this. I was a first day Sega Dreamcast.
Yep.
Can we talk about the Dreamcast for a second?
And how is the best system ever, and how if it
Yes,
was 3 years, it was 3 years too early is what it was. Like
three.
techno.
You're so right on this, Doug. Okay, now I'm
Hmm.
getting excited. That system. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know this system, first of all, you could get a keyboard for it and a mouse. You
Hmm.
could scroll the internet with it,
Scroll the internet, play online,
play
download stuff online.
online. You could
Hmm. It was
download stuff on. It was beyond
it was a arcade hardware, essentially consoleized at home. I mean,
the
so
graphics.
ahead of
What
its
were your
time.
first day games? Do you remember your first
So
day games?
uh I know it was NFL, I think it
NFL
was,
2K.
yeah, I was about to say, I can't remember what denomination it was,
It
but
was
NFL
NFL
2K.
2K. I had
I
Soul
don't think
Calibur.
Soul Calibur. I don't think Tony Hawk was a day one game. I think it was
No, it was
later.
later. I had Crazy Taxi
Crazy Taxi, buddy of
and
mine
I
had that
had
one I
Royal
borrowed.
Rumble.
Oh yeah, I got a
Those
soft
were
spot on
my
that one for
three.
my.
Those were my three. I told you I love the system.
Yeah,
And
it's great, and I'm so pissed that it didn't work out because
I
it was so
know
much better than everything that was out there. It just wasn't
it was
handled
so much
well, and it was
better.
ahead of its time.
I had a Nintendo 64 as well. and I had a PS2 at the same time, but I was really did not, and a GameCube for the kids. Sorry. I did not want to move to Xbox. I didn't.
It was one
And
of the last. I had all those systems, and Xbox was the last one I bought. And I think the only reason that got me to come over to X or buy an Xbox was Halo.
that was it too. It
Yeah,
was
because
Halo.
other than that, I was like, I can play this on my PlayStation. I can play
Uh
this on
yeah,
my
yeah, because
GameCube. All the same.
I was playing a lot of Medal of Honor
Hmm.
online. And that was a hot game on PS2 for a little bit. It
Yep.
was like the predecessor to Call of Duty. Medal
It
of
was
Honor. That's
it
another
was
system.
Call yeah, it was
Yeah,
Call of Duty, yeah.
and that was the another system that screwed themselves because Medal of Honor was a better game than Call of Duty.
Yep.
But anyway, finally went to the Xbox, and the rest is history. I've been an Xbox. I've had every Xbox.
I still dip my toes in all the waters. I have the newest Xbox, newest PlayStation, newest
I
Nintendo
have a.
Switch.
I did buy a PS5 for the kid. That's in Florida, Boca Raton, with my 22,
Hmm.
and my Switch is with my 25-year-old down the street. So I don't get to play those, but I am
Yeah.
now playing the hell out of Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's addictive. Me and a bunch of coworkers we'd get off work and we'd go play Call of Duty and we'd be up till like 2 a.m. And this is, before a child came into my life. So my
So
priorities have
yeah,
changed.
I
But
stopped playing for 5 years during this pinball world. I really stopped
Mhm.
playing, and then I my son bought me Call of Duty for Christmas. He's like, Dad, come on. And we leveled up our guns again. Because I used to be really big on prestiging and leveling up my dudes and getting all that orange for advanced
Oh,
warfare.
it's absolutely. I had a coworker that would take the week off of release for Call of Duty. And I remember like I got it release day, but I had to go to work or whatever. And I came back and he had already like prestiged in the first 24 hours and it was like halfway to the second one. I was like, text him like, how many hours you got in this? He's like, 18 hours so far. I'm like, it's been out for 24. He's like, yeah, sleep's getting in the way, but I'll be
Yeah,
back
yeah.
tonight. And I was like, good
Well,
Lord, man.
he knows the maps, I guarantee.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's the thing. Like when a new Call of Duty came out or a Battlefront or whatever, like you have a week. That's your window to learn those maps in and out. Otherwise, you're just getting murdered
You're just
for,
getting hammered by some guy
yeah,
hiding behind a bush that you don't even know exists. And I
exactly.
play hardcore.
Yeah. So no
Uh,
maps, no nothing. Yeah.
no maps. I don't want that HUD crap on me. So I have no idea where this guy came up. So I used to be really good at it, and I was in a clan and all that shit. But pinball, man, pinball, that's just got me. Uh,
It's addictive too, and it's the one thing that me and my wife share as a commonality. Everything else she doesn't give a crap about. She doesn't care
right.
about arcades. She doesn't care about console games. She doesn't care about my toy collections. None of this nostalgia she cares about. She enjoys pinball, so that has been something that's helped me tremendously as far as bringing stupid expensive toys home. She's a-okay with the pinball because she enjoys playing it. So it's been a
What
nice
do
thing.
you have in your collection right now?
Right now, I have Labyrinth, I have
Okay.
WWF Royal Rumble, and then I have Simpsons Pinball Party, and I'm on the market for a fourth. I've had as many as five, and a four is kind of like my sweet spot because I still have a bunch of arcades, so I have to juggle my space.
What arcades do you have?
I've got a Sega Star Wars Trilogy arcade,
It's a good one.
Teenage Mutant, yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Another great
uh,
one.
Paperboy,
Another fantastic one.
Play Choice 10 arcade from Nintendo, and Daytona USA,
Oof.
and then I have a multicade.
Okay. I put a lot of quarters in some of those machines you're talking about.
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the arcade was like the first experience I had of like beating an arcade game. I remember going in there with
Yeah.
like a $10 roll of quarters and like walking up onto a group that had already made it to like maybe level three and there was only three of them playing. And I'm like, can I get in? They're like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm just feeding that thing quarters until we beat that game. It was amazing.
Yeah. That was a that was a game that was very similar. What was the one where you were in a maze and four of you were wizards?
Oh, Gauntlet.
Gauntlet.
Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah, Gauntlet.
Yeah, I was about to say, you talking about the original one or
Yeah, the original
the
Gauntlet.
okay, yeah.
Gauntlet
Yep.
was one of the first that you can all get together and kind of kick some ass.
Yeah, and that was a crazy game for its time because the amount of like enemies on screen and how fast they came at you, and then you got the real speech. It's like, elf needs food,
Yeah, it
warrior
was wild,
down.
right?
Yeah,
I put a lot of quarters in that. Your friends
yeah.
go and play some Gauntlet. But that to me, because I was older, so
Hmm.
then when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, and then I was like, okay, Gauntlet, Gauntlet with but going this way, and we're kicking some ass, and we're all
Hmm.
together, and
Yeah,
really
Ninja
good.
Turtles was like the sweet spot for me because the cartoon had been out and I was already, glued to Saturday morning cartoons. And so I was already well enamored with spending all my allowance on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. So when I saw an arcade game that looked like the cartoon that I already watched, I was in love.
What kind of action figures do you have? What is your toy
Uh,
collection?
my toy
What
collection
does that
is
encompass? Like what genre?
it's probably 33 it's probably split evenly. 33% Star Wars, 33% Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the other, 30% Masters of the Universe, and then odds and ends, Power Rangers, Transformers.
So this totally makes sense for me because I'm 52 now, right?
Hmm.
And you're in your 40s. And
Yep.
when I was in college, Ninja Turtles was on, and I was just like, fuck this Ninja Turtles, man.
Yeah, it already passed you over. Yep.
It already passed me over, right? Mine was G.I. Joe when I was the 12, right?
I watched G.I. Joe religiously. I just never got into the toys because they were, the 3 3/4, and then I already had Ninja Turtles that were bigger, and the same thing with He-Man. So like,
Plus, you already had the
I,
small Star Wars.
yeah. So I was like, this isn't really this cool. Like, I got all these buff He-Man and Ninja Turtle figures that are all roided out, and then I got these little Star Wars and G.I. Joe guys that wasn't as impressive. But G.I. Joe had some of the most amazing vehicles as
Oh,
far as their
yeah.
toy line,
Oh,
and
yeah.
oh man, they blew that stuff out of the water. Like they're a real freaking hovercraft for crying out loud. I remember a buddy
I
of
had
mine
a
had that, and
hovercraft.
I was like, holy crap! I'm like, this, let's take it
I'm
on
gonna,
water. And like,
I'm gonna throw one at you here that's
okay,
a little ridiculous. And this is really for Cale Hernandez of Electric Bat, who shares his love for G.I. Joe as much as I have a love of G.I. Joe. I had bought myself because I worked at a golf course at 12 years old. I was making like $200 a weekend printing cash.
nice,
I was a cart boy.
nice, yeah.
I was a cart
Oh
boy,
man,
right?
yeah,
My parents did not have any clue how much money I was making, all in singles.
yep.
And I literally bought myself the GI Joe aircraft carrier.
Oh, the USS Flag? Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
not kidding you.
That is like the grail to it's like to this day, like
I know.
just how ridiculously over and that's
Yeah.
I
I was like
wish toy
12,
companies were this,
it was
adventurous.
ridiculously
It's
large.
even as an adult, it's ridiculously large. Like it's bigger than
Yeah.
my dinner table.
My father was like, "What the hell did you spend on what how much was this?" I don't even remember. I think it was like $250.
I was about to say I want to say it was like 199 or something. I can't
Yeah, it was
remember, but
probably 199,
yeah,
but
it was
you
the
could
stuff of legend.
it
Yeah.
yeah, I had it. But then the problem was I then turned 13 and started like liking girls and now I've got this aircraft carrier. I mean, it's just a little ridiculous. So I got rid of that when we moved to Florida. But
I I sympathize. I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Technodrome, which is like, their aircraft carrier. It was the biggest, baddest place that you could get. And as I got older and turned into my teenage years, like that thing had like fallen apart because I'd played with it for many, many years. And I think like all that was left was the eyeball on top of it. And I remember literally using that as like a wiffle ball in the backyard with my buddies when we were playing wiffle
yeah,
ball because
sure.
we'd like hit the ball over the fence. So I'm like, this is about the same size and weight as a wiffle ball. So we started using the Ninja Turtles Technodrome eyeball as a baseball for our
If
wiffle
you
ball
still
games.
had that today and I still had that aircraft carrier
Yeah.
uh, in great shape, there would be worth a couple of bucks, wouldn't
Oh, for sure. I think like the box alone would net you $500.
it? It's stupid. It's so stupid, the crap that I had. I had all of those wrestlers from the
Mm.
WWF.
The
The
LJNs or the Hasbros? The
the
LJNs were like the ones that were like
yeah,
rubber and
rubber
yeah.
LJNs.
Yep. Hmm.
Dude, I had them all.
Yeah, I had the Hasbro like the one generation later when they
Yeah,
were
yeah. I had the LJN. You could bounce them.
absolutely they were just
I had
giant molded rubber that would just
yeah,
boom.
and I had the ring. I had Miss Elizabeth. Dude, I had them all. I had them all. But I was
Yeah.
making too much money. A 12-year-old and 13-year-old cannot make that much money.
No, I was lucky enough to be relegated to like a $5 a week allowance, and I remember I could get a Ninja Turtle action figure or He-Man or whatever. It was typically $3.97. Then I would have leftover money, and that leftover change I would either get some Topps baseball cards, Fleer football cards, and if I had something left, I think it was like 50 cents for a 3 night movie rental or a video game rental at Blockbuster. And that's how I would spend my $5 weekly
You
allowance
had
from
it
doing
down
chores.
pat.
Yeah, every single week.
Here I was just like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just,
Savings. I remember my parents were like, if you save this, you can buy my gone.
yeah, I
Give me
could
that
have
five
bought a
dollars.
car with some of the correct when I had no money when I moved to Florida because I had pissed it all away on all these toys and video games. So
I
it
that
was,
never changed. Like I remember being in high school and my taste didn't ever change. Hence my cool toy name comes from a nickname from like middle school. But like I was the high school kid that put a GameCube, PlayStation 2, and the original Xbox into his car, and I had a TV in my car, and I had 3 consoles in my actual
what kind of
car in
car
high
was it?
school. It was a Mustang that I bought, wrecked, and rebuilt, and learned how to do auto body and stuff on it. But yeah, Mustang 5.0 convertible, straight out of Vanilla Ice music video.
Yeah, 1986. Was it an 86?
It was
87?
a 80 84.
Okay. Ooh, I remember.
Yeah, yeah, hideous by
Yeah, it's
today's
terrible
standards.
looking.
Yeah, but I was like, all right, I can do this, and yeah, I was just
Yeah,
blowing
I drove a
blowing
Plymouth
money left and
Horizon.
right.
I drove a Dodge Omni.
Nice.
Yeah,
I had a
pretty nice.
Mercury Sable was my car when I was 16. My parents were like, you're not getting anything until you learn to drive for a year and don't wreck anything. So I drove a Mercury Sable for the first year.
I drove a Plymouth Horizon that had no air conditioning because my father drove here. This is such off the wall. So sorry, people.
No, you're
But
good.
we lived in Long Island, so my father didn't need a car because he took the train from Ronkonkoma. So all he needed was a mile and a half in the snow. So he bought the cheapest car humanly possible, and then of course we relocate to Orlando, and he's like, "Well, here's your car." I go, "There's no air. There's no air conditioning."
Roll the window down.
He's like, "Well, it has a fan."
So you just get that, blow dryer feeling.
And this is like, why did I not save my money? I could be driving something totally badass as a 16-year-old in Florida, but nope, I drove a Plymouth Horizon. All right, are you ready for a rapid fire hot seat game that we call the hurry up? This is a
Absolutely.
this is a random questions here for you,
Okay.
Doug from Cool Toy. All right, PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
That hurts feelings.
PlayStation library, online ecosystem, Xbox. So like
Yeah, true, 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 true. All right, best toy out of this three. We talked about this. Are these four? Ninja Turtles. You can only have one.
okay.
He-Man, Transformers, or G.I. Joe.
Ninja Turtles as a personal favorite, Transformers are better toys. I mean, I'm still amazed at the intricacy of the 80s Transformers to this day.
Favorite lightsaber to build from your Star Wars character?
Oh, from my like collection,
Yeah, for your collection.
uh Darth Vader for sure. It's just
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with Vader.
Episodes 7, 8, and 9 are absolutely terrible. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. They have their moments.
Oh, they're
Just like the prequel.
the
I mean, there's
prequels. We don't remember when we were bitching about the prequels, we didn't know how good we had it.
true. I mean, we didn't know it could get worse, but there's like Kylo Ren was badass until, the helmet came off and he turned
Kylo
into
Ren was good
emo.
in episode 7,
That's
badass
what
in
I'm
episode
saying.
7, right? And
That's
then
what
all
I'm
of a sudden,
saying.
in
There's
8,
moments. It's
he
as
takes his
as the
shirt
characters
off.
progress, they got worse.
He takes his shirt off, and then episode 9 is such a debacle of a movie that I pretend it doesn't happen.
I mean, in their defense, they didn't do the Marvel thing where they had like a cohesive vision for the entire. They should have done that, and they did the whole, "Hey, we're just going to hand the story off to
There
the next
was a
guy." And
thing. There was a cohesive. There were those books. If you implement those books with Mara Jade, and I don't know if you read those
yeah,
too.
oh yeah,
I,
I read
I'm
the
a
expanded
tour.
universe stuff.
Yeah,
It
me
was
too.
there, but Disney was like, "We want to do our own thing." Like they
Yeah,
basically gave Lucas four
thanks, Disney.
billion dollars to shut up and go away.
Yeah, George. God bless you. All right. Which pinball machine would should be made from one of these themes? He-Man, Superman, or Van Halen?
I mean,
That's for me.
yeah, He-Man, personal choice. They all should be made. Van Halen, definitely for sure. Let's have an eruption solo that lasts, the entire duration before you get to pull your ball. Superman deserves something. I mean, the original EM
It's
is
so, yeah.
it's, but it needs a modern something.
I mean, these are three great titles. We should do this right now. I don't
Yeah,
understand.
that
These
I
are great.
mean, the amount of titles that are out there and available, like it blows me away that they're not created, especially in the 90s. Like
To name
Sega didn't.
drop Wolfgang Van Halen, who I actually have met, I said, that was the first thing I said to him when he came in to the wormhole. I said, dude, why is that not a Van Halen pinball machine? He said, we have too many damn lead singers. You're never going to get them to get along. And
Exactly, yeah.
that's the rub.
Rights issues ruined it all.
Best video game that did not have a joystick. I asked this question to Track and Field, Tempest, a little bit before your time, or Paperboy.
I mean, they all have controls, but
They don't have a, they
I
don't,
enjoy
I'm sorry, they
Paperboy
don't have
just
a
because.
joystick. They don't have a
Yeah,
joystick.
that's right. Traditional joystick. Yeah, I enjoy Paperboy the most out of those three. I think it's the coolest. I mean, I have one because it's so obsessively unique.
It's
You
so
can't get that.
obsessively hard too, by the
Oh,
way.
it is too. Like even with the handlebars, it's still a pain in the ass to play. But
Oh my God.
um, yeah, Tempest is fun just to rip that spinner around though.
Yeah, it is really cool. All right. Best fighting video game on a console, Mortal Kombat, or were you a Street Fighter fan?
Street Fighter. I played them both, and when they started getting really crazy in the modern stuff, where the combo stuff just it's well beyond me. Like I stopped playing Street Fighter competitively at 4, and ever since then it's even got more and more intricate. And I was like, yeah, okay. Tangent. That was one of my favorite things about the arcades growing up was like the fighting game era of the 90s. Like me being in my your early teens and stuff, being able to like go head to head against adults and have this kind of like level playing ground and be seen on the same kind of level as adults was really fun. You didn't really get that kind of experience anywhere else. Like I couldn't go play basketball at the courts or the pickup games with adults or anything like that and be seen as a equal. But I
No,
could
but you
go to
could
the
whip their
arcade.
ass on Tekken.
Exactly. I go to the arcade and I could be seen as an equal and or somebody better if I, had my skills up to par.
This one might not work because you're younger. All right, but let's see. Voltron or Thundercats?
Thundercats. I was a huge Power Rangers fan, and for whatever reason, I didn't realize until I was into my teens how much Power Rangers ripped off Voltron.
Oh, they totally ripped off Voltron. When my
Yeah,
my when my cousins were rocking their Power Rangers, I'm like, this is a bullshit. Okay, I'm
it's
telling
so
you,
egregious. It's so bad. Like
not
how
even
there weren't,
close.
weren't lawsuits on top of lawsuits,
I
but
don't know how that I got away with that shit. All right.
yeah,
Best shitty movie, but a great pinball machine out of these three. Last Action Hero, Bram Stoker's Dracula, or Johnny Mnemonic. What's the best pinball machine out of those shitty movies?
Johnny Mnemonic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Ric Flair, Randy Savage, or Hulk Hogan.
Uh, Macho Man Randy Savage,
The Rock, John Cena, or Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold. How does no, like, we're still talking about, 90s wrestling because of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
All right, last one. WCW Nitro or Monday Night Raw.
I'm gonna go with Nitro, but it also depends on like what time frame you're talking about,
No,
what years.
my kids were young,
Uh-huh.
right, when this was happening. And my son would come in and go, Daddy's watching Boom. I don't know why. He just thought it was the funniest shit that I was watching
Yeah.
Boom. And I would go back and forth. And my
Yeah.
wife had to go in the bedroom
I
because
would
she
sit
couldn't
there on the previous channel button and just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
back and forth,
Yeah.
back and
It
forth.
was so good back in the 95 through 98 era.
It was, well, yeah, that was really great. But I still even did it later on. I was just, oh, it was so great. I loved it. All right, last question. Did you watch the McMahon series on Netflix, the five-part WWE?
Oh man, did I? Yes, that was
It hurts feelings, doesn't it? It
Yeah,
like
I mean,
ruined, they like literally, and I'm not saying he's not a terrible person. He is an absolutely fucking terrible human being.
yep,
But as someone that grew up going to Madison Square Garden to watch Hulk Hogan face Randy Macho Man Savage, this was, like I went to closed caption and watch WrestleMania 2. Like pay-per-view, WrestleMania 3 was like the biggest pay-per-view event of all time at that time.
yep.
Like no one had done this before. And for me, just growing up with this wrestling love, that damn Netflix thing just ruined it for me. It's
Oh, it hurt. It's like, finding out how a magician did his tricks, or, finding out how
yeah,
they make
the
your hamburger at
wizard.
McDonald's. What, it just ruined it. Like you said, could be a is a terrible human being by all by all
Oh, it's
accounts.
horrible.
But like the thing is, like, it doesn't detract from all that he did and created, and that's I'm almost kind of the same thing with like Michael Jackson. Like, I love his
I
music to death.
know.
Was he a terrible human being? Could be. I don't know. Like,
I
I
don't
don't have
know.
enough information other than hearsay, but like I can,
But goddamn,
two
do I love
things
that
can.
Earth song, man.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
both things
pretty
can be
song.
true. Like, wrestling can be so amazing and like is what it is today, thanks to Vince McMahon, and he could also be a
Yeah.
massive pile of shit that deserves to burn in hell.
Are you watching it now at all?
Yeah, I still watch it all. WWF, or excuse me, WWE, AEW, Indies. I'm lifelong wrestling fan. I'll never change. I don't pick sides. I still try to consume as much as I can.
I stopped watching. I'm bummed. I watch a little Brock once in a while, and I kind of like Roman Reigns, and now it's on Netflix. It's a little easier, but
Mhm.
I want to get back in, but I just don't have time, man. I'm doing so much
It's
crap.
yeah, I hear you. I've got too many hobbies myself.
I can't. I just can't. All right, Doug, this was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have met you and sat down and bullshitted with you for about 50 minutes. We've have very similar backgrounds, and the minute I started talking to you, I was like, "We're gonna have a great podcast because we're just gonna reminisce about our childhood and talk about these great things." And I love your channel, Cool Toy. I
Thank you.
got hooked up on you about 6 months ago, and you had done a review. I'm like, first of all, the editing itself is outstanding. How long
Thank
does
you.
it take you to edit? Say you're doing a 10-minute video. How long is that?
It depends. So, like, I know I edited the Dungeons and Dragon video on the ride home from Chicago because we were driving back home, and it took me 4.5 hours in the back seat with the 2-year-old to edit that video on
Yeah,
a laptop.
you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been better, could have been
No,
worse,
I
but I
think it was
mean,
great. We're not making any money in this, right? You
no,
must know
and
that.
that's the biggest misconception on anything.
I mean, we're just not, right? I went and brought all this shit here so that we can, have this podcast, and I just love doing it. And you can see the passion in your product. Keep doing it. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Cool Toy, uh, Twitter/X, whatever the heck you want to call it, Cool Toy as well. Instagram, even though I barely ever use it since it's basically just nothing but vertical video now. Um, and I'm on
Yeah,
Facebook as myself.
we do both. We've done a lot of short video and long that format, and it seems to be doing really well for us. So we're just gonna
Yeah.
keep it up. We're having fun with
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it makes sense for the pinball world. Vertical video is a natural progression, but me coming from a, you know, editing and cinematic training world, vertical video just crawls up my skin and gives me all sorts of nightmares.
All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I had a great time. Thank you so much. Talk to
Thank
you
you. I
soon.
appreciate it, man.
See, I could have talked to him for 2 hours. I could have talked to him for 2 hours, and no question in my mind, I will have him on again, and I'll have him in the wormhole when he comes back to Houston to visit family. So, uh, upcoming to the wormhole. First, we have the Twippies on February 22nd. Head to our YouTube channel already and click subscribe. All right. There are tickets that are available. So come to Houston, come to the wormhole. We're going to be giving away a bunch of stuff. It's going to be an awesome night. We have a tour that we're going to be giving for the vault, and which is our top secret super location with about 65 rare pins there, and get a taste of some of what we've got. Then in Eureka Heights Brewery, Friday night, we're going to have a tournament there, and potentially a unveiling of a new machine at Eureka Heights, potentially if it comes in time. Then a Barrels of Fun tour on Saturday, the 22nd. Visit, and then come to the Wormhole to visit the Twippies and be there live and in person. And Sunday, we've got a tournament at the Wormhole. So visit twippies.com for all the ticketing information. I've been testing vigorously to make sure the Twippies go on without a hitch. Of course, they won't. There's going to be a technical problem here and there, but I'm going to be doing at least 4 or 5 more test runs. Um, Last segment here, it's called Be on the Lookout. We're on the lookout for a few pins that we'd like to add to the Wormhole collection. These are really rare, so if you know anyone that knows anyone that has this machine, that'd be willing to sell it. We're looking for a Mr. Black pinball machine made in 1984 by Taito, which is a Brazilian pinball company. You should check that out on Pinside because it's kind of cool. We really want one of those. And a Cerebus. Cerberus. US. Cerebrus? I don't know. But a Cerebrus is a 1982 Playmatic. We really love those Playmatics. Check out Flash Dragon. That's a rare one that we may or may not have. So, again, email us at wormholepinball@gmail.com. Hit us up on all the socials. I will more than likely be the person that responds. Merch will be live on the new website when we launch that in a few weeks. But if you do want merch, go to our website, wormholepinball.com. We ship, and the material of all this stuff is absolutely amazing. We source a local Houston t-shirt company, and we buy nice shirts. So that's all she wrote. Thank you so much. Thanks, Doug, again. Had a great time. Talk to you guys soon.